Hello and welcome to today's European SharePoint, Office 365 and Azure Community webinar. My name is Orla and I'm delighted to be joined by Ahmed Najir from Avande, who will be talking to you today about intelligent lists and libraries. Remember to join in the conversation about today's webinar on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EuropeanSP and our hashtag is ESPC22. Don't forget to check out the Resource Centre. This is updated daily with the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. Simply visit SharePointEurope.com and click the content link at the top. Continue your learning by joining us tomorrow, May 19th, for 2 webinars, Extending SharePoint with the Power Platform with Michael Mendes at 11 a.m. CEST, and Making the Most of SharePoint and Microsoft Teams with Susan Handley at 3 p.m. For full details, check out SharePointEurope.com/register for webinars. ESPC returns live and in person in Copenhagen from the 28th of November to the 1st of December. Save €300 on your ESP ticket with our super early bird sale, but act fast as this offer ends Friday. For more information, visit SharePointEurope.com. We are so excited to announce the ESPC 2022 program today. The ESPC 2022 program consists of 4 Microsoft keynotes, 9 tutorials, and 120 sessions, which will enable you to leverage Microsoft Teams, Microsoft 365, Azure, Power Platform, SharePoint, and more to your greatest ability. View the full program at SharePointEurope.com. The webinar, we will have a questions and answers session. Type your question in the questions window. Questions will be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and added to the Resource Centre, where you'll be notified by email when it's available. And now I'm going to pass you over to our presenter, Ahmed. Hello, Ahmed.
Hello.
You're live now.
All right, so I'm assuming that everybody can hear me right now.
We can hear you and we can see your screen.
That is great. All right, so welcome to Intelligent Lists and Libraries. I'm going to do a short introduction and we'll get right into it. All right, so my name is Ahmed Najjar. I am based in Oslo in Norway. I'm a Power Platform Architect Lead at Avande. Also business applications MVP, Microsoft certified trainer. Also, I work closely with Microsoft on a program that is called the Independent Publisher Connector Project as a coordinator. So we help kind of like shape the program. At the same time, I already did a couple of connectors, and whoever does connectors for this program, they are called publishers. I'm a passionate, enthusiastic developer, heart and soul. I keep myself very close to technology. I still get my hands dirty despite that I became an architect, but this is something that I do very passionately. Over 17 years of experience working with SharePoint. I used to do a lot of development back in the days. Now it's more, doing collaboration in infusing SharePoint as part of your modern workplace solution and stuff like that. Over 6 years of experience working with the Power Platform. So when I'm not doing anything that is related to SharePoint or Office 365, I'm mainly just working with the Power Platform, which is something that we'll see as well in today's session. 5 years of experience working with, a couple of services with Azure, but mainly Logic apps. And finally, I do organize events and hackathons, help doing them. These are my my social media handles. So this is my Twitter handle and a link to my LinkedIn. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn or follow me on Twitter. All right, let's get into it. So as part of the Microsoft 365 in a modern collaboration workspace, SharePoint lists and libraries are your main storage repositories. So basically, if you are actually using lists or you are using libraries, so either using them within Teams or you're using them within SharePoint. So this is kind of like establish our foundation. So you are actually in the Microsoft 365. You are doing modern
Sorry,
collaboration
Ahmed.
works. Yes, come again.
Apologies. We're getting just a few comments that your screen is hard to see. Would you maybe go into presenting mode and make it a little bit bigger there?
All right. Let me see.
I think it's under, is it display settings at the top?
Let me see. Is it better right now?
It's actually gone now. It's your I think you need to show your other screen. Yeah, it's that is your kind of preview screen, and there should on your, I'd say it's on your other monitor. So if you just pull the,
I'm sorry. Yeah, that should be the one.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's good now.
All
Thank you.
right. All right. So, very rookie mistake. I'm sorry.
Sorry, my
Yeah,
fault as well. I didn't spot it soon enough. So thanks, thank you, Ahmed. And
that's all
thanks
right.
for everybody for mentioning.
Well, we talked about it at the beginning, and then I was just showing my slider. So it's like most of the time I'm just improvising, but I do have notes in here. So that's good that people are seeing that I do have some notes in here. All right, let's get
Thank
back into it. As I mentioned before, so this is going to be basically your foundation. So your foundation is actually using list of libraries. If you are working within a modern collaboration workspace, so you are using the SharePoint lists and libraries as your main storage repository. They're easy to use, easy to understand. Anybody can use them. And now, ever since that you came to the SharePoint week, so I'm assuming that you are familiar with SharePoint. So you basically know what are lists and libraries. So this is going to kind of base our foundation. So if we go to the next slide, and how you would probably scale your business applications. So you need first to have a very strong foundation. A strong foundation is like you establish your solution foundation with core technical capabilities that address your needs. And basically your needs is just to store things within lists and libraries. So you put your documents within your libraries, and you put your records in items that you want to store within lists. And this is kind of like a foundation everybody would understand. And then you start from the ground up, which is the foundation up, and then you have to enhance your solution with new capabilities. And this is something that we're going to talk about in the next slide, how you would scale this business application exactly and specifically for this session. So you enhance, and as I mentioned, you enhance your solution with new capabilities. And finally, when you expand to scale your business application to meet your needs fully, like an end-to-end solution, you expand and scale your business application with new workloads to provide this end-to-end experience or end-to-end solutions. To be more specific on the spot, as we've shown in the or as I shown in the previous one, so we have the SharePoint lists and libraries as your foundation, but you could expand as well by doing, let's say, power apps, or you probably do some reports based on your records that you have in a list or elements in your list, like doing a Power BI report. Or even you could automate things with Power Automate. So this is kind of like taking things up a notch. But if you really want to do this expansion, as I mentioned before, like enhance first and then expand. So just to remind you, so you enhance and then expand. So you go to the next level, which is probably doing some mixed reality over what you have already, or doing some AI builder, or doing some Power Virtual Agents, or use SharePoint spaces. So something like that. So you start from the ground up. And this is what we are going to show today. So we are going to enhance our solutions, and probably everybody would be familiar with how you could automate stuff for SharePoint lists and libraries using Power Automate, because now it's part of the integrated environment that you use. You could right out of the gate use Power Automate in your lists and libraries, but you can also do that from Power Automate. what we want to do is actually not only enhance, but expand our solution using the AI Builder. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the Power Platform and its correlation as well with SharePoint and the other modern workplace tools. So the Microsoft Power Platform is a product family that delivers business solutions across one seamlessly integrated platform. So that we have Power Apps, we have Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, and Power BI, which allows businesses to analyze business data quickly and easily, build custom apps, quickly and easily automate workflows, and also integrate with AI capabilities, which is something that we are going to focus on today. So Power Platform provides a low-code interface for any user to create custom apps. This makes it possible to integrate solutions across Microsoft Azure, Microsoft Modern Workplace, which is something that we are going to address today, Microsoft Dynamics 365, and any third-party solutions. Now, one fundamental goal of the Power Platform is to empower, we call them business technologists, who can use its capabilities to unlock insights, develop processes that would otherwise never surface. Now, let's focus a little bit more about Power Automate. So the Power Automate is a service that helps create automated workflows between apps and services. For example, synchronizing files, getting notification, collect data, and more. Automated workflows orchestrate across services using connectors that can be triggered to run when events occur in other systems and services, or scheduled to run at a specific time. And that's something specifically that we're going to use today, like when you add an item into a list or a library, something automatically happens. But we need to add the extra expansion, which is using the AI Builder. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the AI Builder and why it is important. But before getting into the AI Builder, let's talk about, AI generally. Now, AI itself, or implementing AI itself, does falls into implementation complexity, and access to AI needs to be made easy. The second thing is AI's untapped potential lies in the hands of those with business problems to solve. And that's something that I'm going to show you or walk you through today. So we have business problems, and then we are going to try to solve them with, using AI and Power Automate. And finally, the final thing, which is the talent shortage. So most of the organizations lack the access of data scientists and pro developers, and that's something that you don't get to find all the time. So these are kind of like the three problems that you face when you're trying to implement AI. So AI must be democratized to accelerate the digital transformation. It must be made easy for everyone to use this. Now, if you look at the current AI landscape and how we are using AI right now. So you have different applications, like you have Office 365, you have Power Apps, Power Automate, Dynamics 365, you name it. Those are the applications that commonly that you're using within your modern workplace. So we have the prepackaged ones, which it could be cognitive services, like, for example, platform, vision, language, speech, search, knowledge. These are prepackaged, are ready to use. You don't need to do anything with them. They're ready to go. But you also have the prepackaged or the prepackaged extend, which is something that it's already ready, but you can just add a little bit or extend it to it. So like, for example, the custom vision, you have the custom speech, language understanding, custom search, or custom decision service. And those prepackaged extend, you could add to them, you train them yourself. Like, for example, custom vision, you add the items that you want to recognize. Like, for example, you want to recognize a butterfly, you want to recognize a kind of bird or something like that. So you add those images that you want this model to recognize. you train it, and then it will be ready for you to go. And finally, we have the custom ones, which is basically it needs data scientists. It's more complex, like the Azure machine learning or notebooks. So while we move forward, we move with complexity. The more that you need to customize things, the more that you need to have a better understanding, the more that you need for talents to work with those tools, like, for example, data scientists or pro developers. Now, where does the AI builder fall? So the AI builder falls within these two categories. The AI builder is more like pre-built models that you could use, and we are going to use, I think for the most part, we are going to be using pre-built models just to show how easy to use those ones. And then we have the custom models, which is models that basically they're pre-packaged extend. The only thing that you need to do is provide your data or present it with your data, and based on your data, you train the model and it will be ready for you to use. Now, what I like about the AI builder is actually it adds a little bit more context right now. So the AI builder, if you open the Power Apps or even in Power Automate, so it's part of this integrated screen. So you open this and you open the models, and you are able to be presented with those AI capabilities. Like, for example, if you want to extract information from invoices, you want to extract information from receipts, etc., etc. What I like about the new interface, it adds more context to the problems that you are trying to solve, which is basically what I mentioned before with business expertise. So now you don't have to be that much of a business experience or a business expert. What you need to understand here is this is adding a little bit more context to your business problems. So you ask yourself, what I am trying to do today. I'm trying to, for example, extract information from an identity document. So I know what I'm trying to do. And this is what I like about the new interface. It adds context. And as you can see here, there are documents, text, structured data, images, and this is based on the data that you are going to present to the AI model. This is how it used to look like. This is how it used to look like before. It had category classification, entity extraction, form processing, object detection, or prediction. And those are actually types of models in AI. And this is kind of like confusing because this means that you need to understand the problem and what you're trying to solve a little bit more deeply. But when you're adding a little bit more context to the business solution, like the one that we've seen before in the slide before this one, it is kind of like, helping you out what you're trying to do, rather than you need to understand which model you need to implement in order to solve your problem, your business problem. So based on this, and that's something that we've mentioned before as part of the AI landscape. So we do have different types of AI models in the AI builder. Just a little bit, add a little bit more understanding, shed some light about how does it actually looks like under the hood. So we do have the custom AI models. Custom AI models are models that you build by choosing the model type. And basically right now, you don't have to choose the model type. It's already there for you. It's adding a little bit more context. But once you choose what you're trying to do, then you need to present the data to the model and train the model using your data, and then you are ready to go. The pre-built one, which is the as part of the AI Builder feature, pre-built ones, those are actually maintained and trained by Microsoft using Microsoft data. So the data that is used to train those models were like coming from Microsoft, basically. And the only thing that you could do with those is just present them with your data to get the results. So with pre-built models, you get an AI model that Microsoft has built and trained before to do a specific task. So this is kind of like, the main difference. So what are the custom models that we have as per today? So the custom models that we have as per today, we have the prediction one. So the prediction is just basically you're trying to predict a value or multiple values. So this is you present your data and then you set, basically it tries to predict a value. Let's say that if a customer is eligible to get a loan based on previous data that you have, not on that specific customer, but on all customers in a bank. Category classification, this is more like text-based. So let's say that you have a specific text that, let's say, talks about insurance. So, and there's different types of insurance. You have life insurance, you have, let's say, house insurance, and different stuff. So based on, let's say, the text that you have, you are able to categorize that this is an issue that is related to life insurance, or this is an issue that is related to let's say, housing insurance or something like that. So this is kind of like you classify the text based on what you have in the text. You have entity extraction. You are able to punch out some entities from your text, like, for example, dates, countries, cities, something like that. So you decide what are the entities that you are trying to extract, and based on this model, you are able to punch out those entities from your text. Object detection, and as the name suggests, you are able to detect objects in images. And finally, form processing, which is something that we are going to use today, but not the custom one. We are using the out-of-the-box one. Oh no, we are using a custom one, actually. So form processing, for this one, what we're doing is that you can process a form, so extract certain values within your form. So for example, address, name, number of an invoice, for example, or something like that. The other one, pre-built ones, so we have the business card reader, and as the name suggests, this is reads, extract values from business cards, like the name of the company, address, telephone, etc. Category classification, as the one that we've showed before, for category classification, the custom one, this is a pre-built one. So based on the data that Microsoft have trained this model with, you'll get values. It will not get custom values that you trained it with. This is the main difference. Entity extraction, exactly as the same one that we've talked about before, which is extract entities from text. Identity document reader, this reads values from an identity document, say like a passport, a driving license, or a national ID. And that's something that we are going to experience today. Invoice processing, which is, as the name suggests, you process an invoice, you extract values from an invoice. Key phrase extraction, this extract key words inside of your text, and you are able to punch them out. You have language detection, and as the name suggests, this detects languages. You have receipt processing, similar to the invoice processing, but for receipts. You have sentiment analysis. It will able to give you a sentiment of or analyze the sentiment of the text, like, for example, whether this is positive, negative, or neutral. And this is something that we are using in our demos as well. And I do need your help with this one. And finally, we have, not finally, sorry, we have text recognition. And this is like more like OCR. So if you have some text within an image, you are able to extract this text from an image and then put it as text. And finally, you have text translation. And as the name suggests, this translates the text to a target language. So let's go into the demos. But before we get into the demo, Orla, is there like any questions in the chat?
Not as of yet, no, no questions yet.
All right, that's great. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through this demo. This is Contoso Bank. We do have a SharePoint site for this one, and they are working internally with multiple stuff. But the first thing that they are going to work with is sentiment analysis. So they get their feedback from people on Twitter or the different social media, and they want, if there's really a problem with customer satisfaction, which is something that is very important for the bank. So they need to know what is the problem, and they need to analyze whether this is a negative, a neutral, or a positive sentiment. And based on this sentiment, they need to make a decision, probably make a meeting or something like that. So what I need you to do before going into this demo and starting, so I want you to use the hashtag. I'll put it here in the chat. Let me see. So if I put it, so this is organizers and panelists. I should be, all right.
Not sure if you can do it from your end, but if you want to send it on to me, I can paste it in for everybody.
All right. Can you see this?
I can see it, yeah. Let me just type it in for everybody.
All right, so I've sent a hashtag, which is called Contoso Bank. Please don't rely that somebody else will do that. If you want to do that, feeling tempted to do that, please do it. What I want you to do is write something about a service that you don't like, probably in your bank or something like that, but don't write the name of the bank. Just use the hashtag Contoso Bank. All right, so hashtag Contoso Bank. This is going to be picked up by the Power Automate flow that I used. And what it will do, it will analyze this sentiment. And based on this sentiment, it will create an object in a SharePoint list. And this SharePoint list, then later on, I could create a workflow that could create a team if I want to discuss this, let's say, feature or this service that the bank is providing, because this is so important for the bank to work with, the customer satisfaction. So write something that is positive about a service that you like, something that is neutral, or something that is negative. And this is going to be picked up. And let's go and see how it actually works in real time. While you guys are tweeting, hopefully this got picked up.
I see people putting hashtag Contoso Bank into the chat here, into the questions box. So I don't think that will work. I think it's more Twitter or.
Yes, yeah. Twitter. So you need to do that on Twitter. You need to do that on Twitter. At least I've done it to kind of like listen to Twitter, not put it here in the chat, but you need to do that on Twitter. You can delete that later if you don't want to have it as part of your posts, but at least for demo purposes, we want to do that right now. So what I'm doing right now, so I am going to show my other screen, which is this guy over here, and then bring up Contoso Bank. So I believe that everybody right now could see the Contoso Bank, which is a SharePoint site that Contoso Bank is working with internally. So I want to go first to the social media sentiments. Hopefully somebody already understood the task in. Okay, so this is from yesterday. So what I have in here is a tweet that I've actually wrote on my account, which says this bank's services are amazing. And then I have the hashtag Contoso Bank, and I was able to extract this tweet and put it in here as part of the social media sentiments. But this sentiment is actually came from the AI builder. So the way I did it is we have here is analyze the tweets. And I can see, okay, no, those are from 2 days ago. So, and then I go to edit. So what happens here is I'm just trying to pick up all the tweets that we have with hashtag #KontosoBank. But what I do in here is I just use the analyze positive or negative sentiment in text, which is something as part of the AI builder. You will find it in Power Automate. This is a very, very simple flow that you have here, but you could just do a lot of actually complexity in something that you could just make sense of your data, and as well as kind of like expand your solution very easily. So we have this tweet, and I passed the tweet to this analytics, and as you can see here, we have support for multiple languages. Part of them is Norwegian, Spanish, Turkish, Italian, German, French, etc. And then I pass it here the tweet text, and then what I do is, based on whether it's positive or negative, I just do a switch case. And based on this, I just create an item that this is a negative, this is a positive, or if it's neutral, like this one in here. And that's it. All right, so this is for the first demo. And I hope that somebody have already written something so I could just see if it actually ran. Not yet. All right, so what I will do is I'll just do this myself. So I'll just go in here, write something, and then move to the next demo. While I'm writing, I hope that something comes up in here. Not yet. All right. And hashtag Kontoso Bank. What happened? All right. And I tweeted it, and then I will get back to it later once it's actually picked up, but we will go to the next demo. All right, so I will just share my other screen right now. All right, for the next one, all of you know that there is something that is called the KYC, or Know Your Customer, and that's something that is really important right now, like for banks, and also right now it's also important for those who are doing crypto, because this has to do with anti-money laundering, or the AML, what they call it. So you have to know those customers that you are actually working with, and when they're trying to open your bank, they do some background checks, or they are checked that you have any financial problems. So that's something that is really important. So that's why each now and then they ask you for an identity check, or they check their identity. Like I've done this at least last week, where my bank asked me for an identity check, and I have to do this automatically. But let's say that people works in different ways. So some people would kind of like scan their identity document and send it, or probably the bank would use an app that you could just take a photo and then check your identity. But let's see that if you could do that also in an easy way, like extract this information from your identity just by uploading this to SharePoint, or to a library in SharePoint. So this is what we are going to do right now. So I will just share my screen in here, and then I will go to the identity documents. So in here, we don't have anything yet, but let's say that I want to upload some files in here. So I'll go to my files. I think I have them in the documents. Then I have them here. And I think I have them here. And then we have the demo, and then Know Your Customer. So let's upload 2 documents all at once and then put them into SharePoint. While they're uploading, now behind the scenes, there is a flow that is going to pick up those documents. And once those documents, this flow picked up this document, all right, that's not a problem. I've already tweeted something, so hopefully we'll get back to that later. All right, so back to the know your customer in here. So what happens here is I am uploading documents in here. And the nice thing about this flow is I am able to extract the data for those documents without doing anything. So now they're actually running behind the scenes. I've actually struggled with you know, the trigger of those these flows that I'm running right now. The reason is it's just taking so much time for them to trigger. But what happens in here, it will be able to extract the first name, the last name, the identity document number, the nationality, date of birth, and finally the expiration date. So hopefully, sometime in the near future, this will happen. It will extract the data. There you go. As you can see here, the data was actually extracted from this. I didn't need to do anything. And as you can see here, this is the Canadian pass, and as the document suggests, and this is correct. This is a Canadian nationality. This is the identity document number, and as you can see here, this is just the test data. If I open this, you will see that this is something that came from the test data. But let me show you something that is actually based on real data and then see how it works. But the only thing I need to do here, I just need to hide the identity document number because I am going to upload a document that belongs to me. So what I will do is I will just hide this. Oh, sorry. And I'll just show and hide documents and then apply. And as you can see here, now it's actually gone. So I'll just upload files from the ones that I have in here. So I'll go to my desktop, I think, and I do have it somewhere here. So this is actually my passport, and I'm uploading this in here. We'll get back to this once this gets picked up, but as you can see here, this also works with real documents, not only with the test documents that you have. The whole idea here is that it will read the machine area, where basically you have some sort of like, you know, an area where you could read the passport, which is this one over here. It will extract the data from here. But for identity documents, other types of identity documents, like, for example, a driving license or an ID, it will extract it from the data up here if this machine reader you know, area or machine code area does not exist. So if I get back in here, let me see if this actually got picked up. Now, as you can see here, this is also got picked up as well correctly based on a real document. So this is my name and nationality, etc., birth, date of birth, and the identity document expiration date. So this is really cool. So it actually works with even with real documents. All right, so let's move to the to how I actually done this. So if we go to my flows, and then go to extract identity document details. And as you can see in here, it's a really very simple flow, what I've done in here. So once you upload a document into your document library, I want to get the content, because what I am passing actually to this AI part is the contents or the binaries or the content of the file itself, which is kind of like, you know, like binaries. So this is what I need to do. That's why I'm kind of like using these two in here. So I am going to first, when a file is created, I want to trigger this flow. Then I get the content. I pass the content in here. And then finally, what I do is just extract the information that I got from the AI action into the different or to the respective fields that I have in the library. It's very simple, very straightforward, but it does provide a lot of, convenience to using listen libraries, making them like really intelligence libraries or lists. And let's go to the next demo, and then I'll go to monitor 2. For this next one is going to be invoice processing. So Contoso Bank does work with a lot of invoices. So it is really, it's convenient that you put the invoices within SharePoint. So you put them into the libraries. But the problem with that is that when you put those invoices within libraries, you need to rename them to something that is actually relative to you, like for example, the invoice number or the amount of the invoice number or the customer or who is it to this invoice. But instead of doing this, just making it so convenient, you could just upload the invoice into the library and the AI will do the work for you, which is extracting all the things that you need to know about this invoice, which is make it even easier for you to explore the invoices in your libraries. So you no longer have to go to the documents one by one to know which invoice that you are trying to check. You are also able to check the total sum of the invoice, the number of the invoice, and even how much tax you have to pay for this invoice without opening a single document. So for this demo, I will just go back again to monitor 1 and then go to invoices. And as you can see here that I have invoices from before. So I don't have to open those invoices to know which invoice number I'm talking about. What is the subtotal? What is the total for this? The only thing that you need to do is actually to upload some files in here. And what I will do is I go to my documents and again to sessions. And then I go to the SharePoint week and to the demo invoice processing. I could just upload all the documents all at once or just upload them one by one. This is going to be picked up by the flow. And once they are going to pick up, the AI will be able to extract the information that I need and then put them in their respective fields. So I don't have to open the documents one by one to know which invoice, what is the invoice number, the total of the invoice, or anything else that I want to know about the invoice. Everything will be available for me from here without opening the document. So if I go into here and see how I've actually done it, it's pretty similar to the identity document. If I go to my flows, and then finally extract invoice details in here, and then edit. It is pretty much similar to what I've done with the identity document. So it gets picked up once you upload a file. You need to get the content. And finally, what you need to do is the invoice file, which is basically the content that you got from this action up here. And then finally, what you do in here, you just map the properties that you get from the AI action here into their respective fields, like the invoice ID, the subtotal, the total tax, and the invoice total, etc., etc. And hopefully by now, this is actually picked up the files that I have. Indeed, it did. So if we go back in here and then do a refresh, and notice that we already have the invoice number in here, the subtotal, the sales tax, and the total for each and every invoice in here, without the need to opening them one by one to check the values. And then we have multiple properties that can be extracted from the AI model. So it's not only those that I'm showing in here, but this is only for demo purposes. I'm showing that we have the invoice number in subtotal, sales tax total, but there are other properties that the model is able to extract. All right, with this, we'll come to our final demo, which is something that has to do with loan screening. So, the banks does work with they loan people money, and you always, go through this process, which is a process that it always happens the same thing in each and every bank. They call you, they do a screening, they ask you the same questions, like how much do you make a month, a year, and then depends, and then they ask you, do you have any dependents? Are you married? Do you have other loans? They do a credit check on you. So all these things are things that all the banks does have pretty much the similar process, and they already have tons and tons and loads of data of this information based on the loans that they have already given to people. Because this is kind of like, doing some kind of like a risk assessment. They need to check if you are going to pay them back the loan. So this kind of like, screening process is something that happens over and over again. So instead of just doing this over and over again, so you could kind of like, automate this thing. This is one thing. The other thing is based on the loans that you've already given, like Contosa Bank, for example. They've already given loans from before. And based on those loans that they've given before, they could train a model based on the loans that they've already given or they haven't given, and then present this with new data, and based on this it will give them kind of like a threshold on the eligibility, or they could give them an answer about the eligibility of you paying them back the loan or not. And then basically you will say, yes, you're eligible for a loan, or no, you're not eligible for a loan. So this kind of like a screening process will be automated at the same time, driven by this AI model, which is based on your data. Now, I understand some people would need, or some banks would need to take a human decision on things, but at least, the first step of this screening, it will give you an indication that this person will probably pay you back the loan based on my data, or probably would not do that. Like even with a human decision, the risk is still there. And people would, tumble down the road and they can't pay back the loan. But at the same time, this is something that you could automate, as I mentioned before. So enough with the talk and explaining. Let's go to it itself. So we have the loan screening in here, as you can see. And this is something that I have already done from before. Let's present it with some new data. But the nice thing about this, you fill down the data in here, which is, for me, I've chosen, some kind of data. Some other banks would choose some other type of data. But for me here, I will add here, like, for example, Doe, and then we'll put some account number, monthly income, let's say 4,400, self-employed, no, this is the default answer. You could just put yes. Loan amount, let's say that they're trying to get 60,000. Education, not graduate. Credit history, let's say no status. Married, we'll say yes. And then dependents, we have one. And then we don't have to fill the eligibility because this is something that is going to be automated. The AI will fill that for us. We'll save this data for now and see once this works. This is going to change as well the format, like, the combination of adding this as well, formatting to SharePoint, it's just make it so intuitive and kind of like, you'd understand the data just by looking at it. So doing a combination of formatting and using Power Automate and then AI behind the scenes, it just makes it a little bit kind of like, appealing. So once we get an answer from the AI, whether this John Doe is eligible or not, this is going to change the color as well for this. And just by looking at this list, you'll understand that which ones are the eligible ones and which ones are not eligible. Or even you could just, do a filter in here and do that. So I think that this is going to be the final demo. I see that there are actually some questions in here. I'll get back to you, Orla, but for now, just let me see if this is actually picked up. But let me go again in here and see my flows and show you how I've actually done this one. So we have, it's called loan eligibility in here. And this is actually ran 15 seconds ago, and this guy is eligible. As you can see here, we got the answer in here, but it is actually eligible. And this is based on a data that I've actually trained this model before. The prediction models are actually not built by Microsoft. It's something that you present your data with. And based on your data, this AI model made a decision that this guy is actually eligible for a loan. So as you can see in here, what I do, so once an item is actually created, I just pass it to the predict model. And I do have a model that I have built from before, based on data that I have from before, whether they're self-employed, loan amount, education, credit history, applicant income, whether they're married or not, and the number of dependents. And then based on this, the prediction, so if it's actually equal to true, if the prediction is equal to true, then this guy is eligible. Then we put that this guy is actually eligible. Otherwise, we put this guy is not eligible. As simple as this. So as you can see here, I was able to do a lot of sophistication and just make my lists more meaningful and intelligent, if you could say, just by doing simple stuff, not only automation, but also adding or infusing AI into those automation, making them like more readable, more sensible, so to speak. So with that, I think that we have 8 minutes to questions. Orla, I'll get back to you for the questions.
Okay, perfect. There's a few in. So going back to when you were doing the invoices, can we use this KYC demo case for files with customer information, e.g. a Word document?
Okay, so the identity document model, or this one is actually a pre-built one. It's meant for identity document. What you need to use, the form processing for customer documents, if I understood the question correctly. So there are actually two different. The model for the identity documents are meant for identity documents only, not forms. So you can actually, do a lot with it. But basically, the ones that if you have forms or invoices, it doesn't matter whether they are forms or invoices, and you want to extract entities from them, you could train the model on those forms or Word documents that you're talking about, and you could just extract the data from those forms based on your data. But you're saying that if it's actually a Word. Now here's the thing. Now file, I think it should be possible. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Amit. So another one here. I assume to use AI, you'll need to train the system. How long will it take? For instance, for the ID cards, do you need to provide an example for each country you work with? Same for the invoices. Are they all with the same format?
All right, that's a really good question. Both of these models that I've actually used are pre-built models. So basically those does not need any training. So basically they've already trained. You could just use them right out of the gate, and you don't have to train them at all. But if you're asking specifically about training, the training does take like, maximum, like, it is just a couple of minutes. It is not something that is actually takes a lot of time. It is only that you just present the model with the data that you want to train it with, and it will just process it. And then behind the scenes, with all the complications that the AI folds in, it is able to, train itself and understand the data. And then after that, it will be able to be presented with data that you want to predict, you want to extract, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not something that it will take a very long time. Training is just, takes a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes max.
Okay, thank you. I think you might have answered this one already, but I'll just call it out anyway. Can you extract more variety of the information from the invoice? I think asking for more, if you can do more fields.
That is correct. You are able to do that. So if I think that you are still seeing my screen.
Yeah.
All right. So if I go back to my flows and then go to the extract invoice details in here, and then go to the flow itself, wait until it actually loads. And then, of course, you are able to extract other properties, if you could call them, or entities from the invoice. Let me see. Hopefully, this will work. Okay, still, are there any other questions, Orla?
Yeah, one more. What is the license model for AI?
Oh my God, this is this is a really good question. There is something that is called the AI Builder Calculator. I could direct you to that. Now, it actually differs based on how you are going to actually use this, like, per run and stuff like that. So it is not a straightforward answer. So I would suggest that you would actually go to the calculator and then check what you are trying to do and how many times that you are going to run it, and do the different stuff, and then based on that you're able to do that. I'm just anticipating that this is not going to be what you're expected. It is quite expensive, but if it just make it worth a while for you and what you're doing, and it's just save you some time, and you do the calculation, it is beneficial for you, you would just use it. But at least this is what I could say. I'm not one of the big fans of how the licensing model is put generally into the Power Platform and specifically into the AI Builder, but it is what it is. So I will just redirect you to the AI Builder Calculator. I don't know if I have it somewhere in here. Let me see. Let me see. I remember I had it somewhere. I could just put it in the chat and you could just
Yeah, and the other thing we can do is we can put it onto the recording link afterwards. If you want to send anything, we can put it with the recording.
Let me see. I think I found it right away. Hopefully it's this one. Yeah. All right, I'll just paste it for you in here, and then you just paste it for the rest.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we'll do that now.
Any other questions?
There's one more, just a moment. Thanks
Back
for
to
a
the
great
question that all right. So back to the question that they were asking about extracting the information from invoices, and this is the amount of data that you could extract. And as you can see here, there's a lot of data that you could just extract in here. Part of them is the confidence level of how much how the model is actually sure of if this is the billing address, if this is the customer name, you know, based on the confidence level. So you could use that as well. But you can see here that this is the amount due, the billing address recipient, and then the customer address recipient, etc., etc. So there's a lot of things: due date, text date, invoice date as text or as date, invoice ID, invoice total, you know, a lot of things.
Great, thank you. One more final question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Says, thanks for a great presentation. Do the not custom models need to be trained, and what about their accuracy? What about the accuracy?
What are the models?
So the models that are not custom. So do they need to be trained, and what?
No. That this is totally Microsoft's responsibility, and they train them themselves. What I know that they are going under continuous training, and the results changes sometimes to the best, sometimes not really so good. to be honest, but at least what I know, I've tried. Once I tried the Norwegian passport on the identity document. It didn't work in the beginning, but now I've tried it again. The ones that the example that I showed you today, and it just works perfectly. So it is actually they are undergoing a continuous training all the time to make them better. And I always provide feedback to Microsoft about things, and hopefully, yeah, they work on stuff, especially for the pre-built ones.
Okay, I think that's probably about all that we have time for today. Lots of questions still coming in, Ahmed, but we're going to have to get you back another time.
Yeah, sure.
And thank you so much for joining us today. It was an excellent presentation, and thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Orla. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and hopefully see me some other time with ESPC.
Again, absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for attending. This is the end of today's webinar. Thanks for your time. We really appreciate it. Take care and goodbye.